Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kay, and today I'm going to be doing a mid-month wrap-up for the month of August. I tend to read 10 to 15 books a month, and I feel like that's just way too many to try to work into one wrap-up. If I want to be able to talk about any of the books really at all, I feel like I need to split them up. That way I give myself a little bit more time. I don't feel like I need to rush, and the videos don't become super long and bloated, and nobody wants to watch them. So I'm going to start with the first, I think, 6 books that I read this month so far. Starting with Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This is a story about a young woman named Cassiopeia Tunn. After the death of her father, her and her mother are forced to go live with her wealthy grandfather and their extended family in his home in a small town in Yucatan, Mexico, set during the 1920s. So Cassiopeia and her mother are basically treated like servants within the household. The cousins and the aunts and uncles, they all just kind of give orders, and Cassiopeia and her mother are expected to follow them. So they do all of the cooking and the cleaning and things like that. Cassiopeia's biggest dream is to escape this house, escape the town, and go to live in the city and live this kind of glamorous life that she has kind of seen and heard about, but has never gotten to experience. Our story really gets started when Cassiopeia finds a chest in her grandfather's room while the family is gone, and she opens it up hoping to find maybe some gold or something, and instead finds a bunch of bones. And as she's rummaging through the chest trying to see if there's anything maybe underneath of them, she inadvertently resurrects the Mayan god of the dead, Hun Kame. He had been trapped in this chest by his jealous twin brother, Vuku Kame, with the assistance of Cassiopeia's grandfather, which is why the chest is in his bedroom. And when Hun Kame was trapped in this chest, his brother removed certain things from him, his finger, an eye, his amulet, and he gave these items to some magical beings that he trusted to keep safe. And in order for Hun Kame to fully resurrect as a god, he must find all of these missing pieces and restore his body that way. In the meantime, he is connected to Cassiopeia, and so the longer it takes to find his missing pieces, the more human he becomes. And then Cassiopeia is slowly dying because he's actually kind of siphoning off her life force. So this book was a bit of a disappointment for me because I had seen so many reviews and just everyone's gushing about it, and it was on a lot of like best of 2019 lists, things like that, and I just didn't love it. It was a very kind of simple fairy tale type of story, very straightforward. So they had to go on this quest across Mexico to find Hun Kame's missing pieces, and that's kind of it. When I had originally picked up this book, I was kind of hoping for, I guess, maybe some more exploration of this culture and this mythology, and just kind of a more complex story, I guess. It wasn't a bad story by any means, and I think, because I'm pretty sure it's billed as an adult fiction novel, and I think I would recommend it for people who are making the transition from YA to adult, because it is a quick read. It's, like I said, not super complex. There's not a lot of world building and things that you kind of have to wrap your mind around, like you find in a lot of like epic and high fantasy and things like that. So, like I said, not a bad book. I gave it 4 stars. I did enjoy reading it. It just did not live up to the expectations, I guess, that I had put upon it, and that's really no fault of the books, but really maybe more towards all the people who are going on and on about how great it is and kind of building up maybe an expectation that isn't necessarily deserved. So after I finished that, I jumped straight into Dark Age by Pierce Brown. I was super excited to get this book and could not wait to start it as soon as I got my hands on it. I did do a full review, so I will link that up above, but I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. It is the 5th in a series, so I'm not really going to go a whole lot into what it's about, but suffice to say, it's kind of a book of dual natures. There is the whole side of the book that's about violence and war and battles and people getting hacked to bits and blood and gore and all of that. And then you have the more political side of things where sometimes it's a bit slower, but it's because it's more of a thinking type of thing. You have people trying to strategize and work through politics to achieve ends rather than just brute force. And I think that this book really benefited from having that dual nature, because if it had been a nearly 800-page book that was just a lot of fighting and cutting people up, I think I would have gotten bored. And if it was a nearly 800-page book about just politics and basically like a chess match, I think I would have gotten bored. So being able to switch kind of back and forth, to me, really helped the book a lot, and I really enjoyed it. Next up, I read The Black God's Drums by P. Djali Clark. This is a Tor.com novella, so it is a rather short story. It's an alternative history fantasy story. Our main character is Creeper. She lives in New Orleans. I believe it's in the late 1800s. In this timeline, the Civil War has not ended. It is still kind of an ongoing, I don't know if they're kind of at almost a stalemate, but they are still like plodding on, still trying to fight each other. And New Orleans has kind of declared itself neutral and a free state, so there are no slaves or anything. Trade is a huge part of it, so you have France who's involved, and I believe Spain, and so some of these European countries. But our main character of Creeper, she's 13, she lives on the street because she is an orphan, and she, an African goddess of like wind or storms or something, kind of resides within her and speaks to her, gives her visions sometimes. And when our story kind of starts, she's given a vision of kind of an impending doom sort of feeling. And about the time that this vision comes to her, she overhears a conversation about a Haitian scientist, and he has this weapon called the Black God's Drums. The Confederates are hoping to get their hands on it in order to ultimately win the Civil War. What we find out is that the Black God's Drums is kind of harnessing the power of some of the African gods to create basically like a giant storm. It's what the people of Haiti used to defeat the French when they revolted and gained their freedom. The problem being that they used this weapon to create this storm to sink all the French ships, but then there was no containing it, there was no controlling it, and it came back onto the island of Haiti and killed a ton of people. So if this were to be released again, it could potentially, I think, destroy like the whole country, possibly the whole world if it got too out of control, because I do know they said that like the storms from that first time they used it were still kind of causing some problems and causing problems throughout the world, not just in the vicinity of Haiti. So everyone's kind of really eager to not let the Confederates get their hands on it, and that's kind of what this book is about. And the only problem I think I had with it really was that it was too short. I didn't feel like I could connect with the characters enough because there just wasn't enough time. And the conflict itself felt truncated. There wasn't a lot of complexity to it. There wasn't a lot of build-up. And it all just was kind of like, boop, 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 done. And I think it would have definitely benefited from being longer. So I think I only gave it like 3 stars. I wasn't super crazy about it. That's not to say it's like a bad story. I've seen a lot of people who have given it really positive reviews and really enjoyed it. I just personally didn't really connect with the story or with the characters. So that was super unfortunate. After I read that, I picked up Beastly Bones by William Ritter. This is the second in the Jackaby series. And this is a lot like the first. It's just a short read. I mean, it's like less than 300 pages. And it's just a lot of fun. It is a Sherlock Holmes kind of retelling. Jackaby, being the Sherlock character, is a supernatural detective, and then his assistant is Abigail Rook. It takes place in New England, I think in like the 17 or 1800s. I'm not entirely 100% sure. And like I said, this was just a good time. It's definitely not meant to be this like mind-blowing super puzzler of a book. I think it really is meant to just be entertaining and fun. And it definitely lived up to that for me. It's got carnivorous shapeshifters, which are cool. There are some dinosaur fossils kind of discovered, possible vampire. And we get a little bit more interaction between Abigail and Charlie in this, which I also did appreciate. And then the character of Jenny, who is the ghost that lives in Jackaby's house, she gets a little bit more development in this, and I'm thinking that in the next book, and possibly the one after that, then she is going to be much more involved as they are trying to figure out who murdered her. So that's really interesting. I'm looking forward to that. And funny enough, I did come across Jacobee at a new used bookstore in the area. I just popped in because it is fairly new, and they didn't have a whole lot, but as I was scanning the shelves, I managed to find Jacobee in hardback, and it looks basically brand new. It was only like $5. So I was absolutely thrilled. It's now residing on my shelves, and I am so happy. So I look forward to reading the rest of the series. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I did this month was a reread of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. My daughter and I read these before bed, so we do like a chapter a night if we get to bed on time. And we have already read through the first 4 books once, and we're doing a reread because I didn't feel like moving on to the 5th book was appropriate. She's only 7, and it does get a little dark, so I didn't feel like it was time for us to go there. And when I gave her the option of rereading it or picking out a different set of books to read, she wanted to reread Harry Potter. So I said that's fine. We are now moving on to the 3rd book. This is not my favorite Harry Potter book, never has been. I've read these books, I couldn't even tell you how many times at this point, and I've never loved this one the same way that I have others. I'm not sure why, except that maybe I'm not super crazy about Dobby. I think that might be maybe the only thing. There is a bit of a glaring plot hole in this book, and now that I'm a bit older, I definitely see it, and now I can't unsee it, obviously. So that kind of maybe hinders it a little bit, but I still enjoy it because it's Harry Potter, and I've been reading them since I was 10 years old. So I still do really enjoy it. I probably gave it 5 stars because I give all the Harry Potter books 5 stars, but it is my least favorite in the series, and I'm looking forward to getting into Prisoner of Azkaban, which is one of my favorite ones. And last up this month is Into the Drowning Deep by Myra Grant, aka Shauna Maguire. This is an adult sci-fi horror book, so there are killer mermaids, which is why I was so excited to get to this book this month. I love a good killer mermaid, and this book definitely delivered on that. So this book is, like I said, about killer mermaids. There was a research ship sent out by this entertainment company, think like Sci-Fi Channel. They do mockumentaries, like monster mockumentary things, and really bad kind of Sharknado-y type movies. They send out this research boat with scientists and everything. The whole thing's being filmed, of course, for a mockumentary, in search of mermaids. And the ship is found adrift. All hands are lost. There is some footage that was recovered of an attack by mermaids, but most people write it off as a hoax. And now we're 10 years after that, and the company called Imagine Company, they are sending out a second ship. And the whole intent behind that is to kind of decide once and for all, was it a hoax or not. The company themselves, the higher-ups, obviously know that it was not. So they're sending out this ship to kind of save the company's name. And if they can find the mermaids again, they can make a whole bunch of money because they're recording everything. They think that this time, you know, they've got all these safety measures in place. They're prepared this time around. Things will be fine. Obviously, that doesn't happen because lots of people die. It took a little while to get into because nothing really exciting or compelling happens until they actually get out to the Mariana Trench where the mermaids are. But that was okay. Once we got there, it was good. By the end of this, I was getting some serious Jurassic Park vibes. Like from the movie, you had like mechanical failures, and people are getting snatched and ripped to pieces, and their faces are getting eaten off, and it's like fun and a little gross. And I really enjoyed it. I understand that Shauna Maguire at least had planned a sequel for it, but according to a tweet that I saw, it just hasn't been greenlit by the publisher, by Orbit. So that to me is a big bummer because I would really like to see where they go next with the story. Just based on how it ended, it would be interesting to see where she would go next. But I gave this book, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it. Anyone who likes killer mermaids should read this. It doesn't spend really any time in the mind of the mermaids or anything like that. It's all from the the researchers, the scientists, the characters on board the ship. But you do get, I think, like one small chapter from their point of view, which is interesting. So that's it for today. Thanks for sticking around. If any of you have read any of these books, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you thought. Let me know what you guys have been reading this month, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!